So with the first episode of the new Chainsaw Man anime finally released, we have an opening that fully lives up to the series it was created for. MAPPA has again blown me away with the subtle details, foreshadowing to future events, and of course, a lot of Fujimoto-esque movie references. So I thought why not dig through this opening and analyze everything going on in it. Now, of course, this should be obvious, but I will be talking about full series spoilers when breaking this down. So if you want to go into the series blind, this is your spoiler warning. With that all said and done, let's begin. So the first shot of the opening is already off to a fantastic start, with Denji revving up his engine. This specific scene is actually in reference to the first time Denji ever transforms into the Chainsaw Man to defeat the zombie devil and kill the Yakuza debt collectors who originally killed him. Though, what's cool about this transformation is that it's done with a backdrop of a painting, this being a scene from the Divine Comedy where Jean-Paul escapes from demons in hell, which in itself is both a reference to Puchita's own escape from hell in the war that he had with Makima and the Weapon Devils prior to the start of the series, as well as likely a call forward to the painting of the fall of Lucifer in Makima's home when she and Denji go to kill Power. Then we fade to a group shot of Denji, Makima, Power, and Aki walking together like a family in the middle of the street. Now this is possibly in reference to the second opening of Jujutsu Kaisen, which is a show that MAPPA has previously worked on and that Fujimoto has made comments about during the original anime announcement for Chainsaw Man, but them all wearing different kind of suits than they usually do is in reference to the film Reservoir Dogs, which is a movie that also inspired the Devil Hunter uniforms in the first place, though Power doesn't normally wear one, so that's why this itself is actually a reference to that. And also I should say, this is where we begin a lot of the movie references throughout this entire trailer, and honestly, they're all very Fujimoto in nature, as a lot of his work is directly inspired by films and movies, and theaters can be seen as sort of sacred ground in his work. Now their dynamic here is very family-like, with Power and Denji fooling around like brother and sister, Aki being the stern older brother, and Makima leading the group like a mom. And it's when she shows any sort of affection towards Denji that his demeanor completely changes, going from goofy to more serious and sort of love-struck, which of course is accurate to how Denji will act in the series itself. Then we have a scene of Denji in the graveyard hugging Puchita, which is in reference to the graveyard scene from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And this is a very clever use of movie referencing, as Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of the films that originally inspired Chainsaw Man, and this scene is the origin of the Chainsaw Man, where Denji and Puchita first meet. It is also a visual of Denji fulfilling the Chainsaw Devil's one wish in life, and that is to be hugged by someone else. Then next we have a shot of Kishibe aiming his gun and giving demands. This is in reference to the ending scene from the movie Pulp Fiction during the confrontation at the diner, where Jules reads off the Bible verse Ezekiel 25:17. Though, like the previous scene, this works as more than just a movie reference, as it's a call forward to when Kishibe and Makima have a final encounter, and he holds her up at gunpoint and demands that she gives him answers to her plans and goals for the future and for Chainsaw Man. And then of course comes another movie reference, with Akane, Denji, and Samurai Sword, all of them standing in front of a well, this one being from the Ringu series, with Akane dropping into the well in a similar manner to Yuri Korohashe from the movie Sadako vs. Kayako. This is reinforced when Denji and Samurai Sword come clashing against each other like the two entities in that same movie. Now this can be understood as a reference to Akane and Samurai Sword's own role in the series itself, as Yuri was sacrificing herself, but her sacrifice was in vain, as the clash between Sadako and Kayako only resulted in a stronger cursed entity being created, and Yuri's body was then possessed. Similar to how Samurai Sword's defeat only strengthened Makima, and Akane's own corpse would be used by Makima to do a special combination attack against the Gun Devil, both of them dying in vain. Then we have a scene of violence removing his shoes in a motel. This is in clear reference to the movie No Country for Old Men and the scene where Anton Chigurh removes his boots to allow him to sneak up on a rival Mexican gang in the same motel and kill them with a silent shotgun. Now this scene more so speaks for Violence's character. Putting him in the place of Anton gets across that even though he is somewhat unassuming personality-wise, Violence is still a dangerous fiend. I mean, the reason he wears the mask is to literally keep him sedated so he doesn't go crazy. Then we have Aki and Denji driving together, which is a scene in direct reference to the opening of the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, with Aki in the role of Brad Pitt's character, Cliff Booth, and Denji in the role of Leonardo DiCaprio's character, Rick Dalton, which, if you've seen the movie, I feel like Aki and Denji's relationship and their roles in the story match up pretty well with those two characters. I do want to see Aki just fucking pelt someone in the head with a dog food can. Following this, we have a scene in a crowded meeting room with Kobeni's car's owner climbing over the table, followed by Hirokazu, who is being guided by Aki while Kishibe just sits there and relaxes. This is obviously another movie reference, this one being Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, and the conference scene, partly reinforced by the fact that one of the diagrams on the wall is the Tomato Devil. It also depicts how under budget the Public Safety Committee likely is, this crowded meeting room being just what they had available. This also shows how loyal the new recruits would be it the car insurance owner or violence pre-surgery. Then we have Denji reacting in shock while Power appears behind him excitedly. Though the face Denji makes here and how his hands move is actually very similar to his overwhelming excitement for when he sees Makima for the first time when they go to the movie date together. But this of course is in reference to another movie, that being Don't Look Up or Ghost Actress, where a ghost appears behind an actress during a film screening. Then we have a scene of Angel sitting lonely at the bottom of the stairs, which of course is in reference to the movie Jacob's Ladder, which is one of, if not my favorite movie of all time, and has a lot to do with the themes of death and dying, and it relates very well to Angel's character and his ability, with one of the most memorable quotes from the movie being, "If you're frightened of dying and you're holding on, you'll see devils tearing your life away. But if you've made your peace, then the devils are really angels freeing you from the earth. It's all a matter of how you look at it," which might be the most on-the-nose representation of Angel's character, and is likely one of the main inspirations for his entire design. Then following this scene, we have Himino and Aki together, with Aki assumingly having handed the wrapped-up Cursed Devil sword to Himino, as the scene itself is in reference to the movie Constantine and the meeting between John and Angela, where he gives her the tip of the Spear of Destiny, telling her to hide it somewhere. And the chemistry of that scene is actually perfectly reflected in Aki and Himino's own relationship, as well as it could imply that Himino was the one to give Aki the sword, or at least she wishes she could take it away from him. And then we flash back to reality, where everyone is sitting in a theater together, where they have assumedly been watching the last few scenes play out, hence why everything we've seen so far is just a direct reference to another film, as well as keeping in line with the film and theater trends in Fujimoto's work. The dynamic between the characters in the theater is also great, with Makima feeding Denji popcorn, and the both of them enjoying the film together, where Aki and Himino are almost the opposite, with Himino falling asleep and looking bored most of the time, even lost in some places, where Aki looks more confused than anything, and this can be sort of read into a bit, as Himino and Aki are people who don't really pay attention or care much for their lives, and they are willing to sacrifice them without second thought. Also, the positioning of the characters seems to matter a bit as well. Obviously, you have the characters who are paired off together, but you also have the second row, which is the replacement buddies like Angel and Beam. Then you have someone who's always in the background, that's Prez, and finally, the real mastermind and the guy who's sort of keeping everything together, Kishibe, all the way in the far back. And then you have the licensed auto insurance Nightmare slowly getting up to use the bathroom, only to return to find Power has taken the seat and likely is telling her that she's been sitting there the whole time, while maskless violence keeps up appearance. And if I were to take a guess at any changes that would be made to the opening going forward, I would assume this scene in particular will have the theater sort of clog up as time goes on. Then following a tumbleweed transition into the next set of movie references, first being The Big Lebowski with the bowling god Jesus as Denji polishes his balls in a similar fashion to Jesus. And then Aki rolls a strike with a golden ball that transitions into a pachinko-like jackpot screen of Power. There's a lot to unpack here, so let's start with the basic. Firstly, the golden ball. While being a reference to pachinko and the movie that I mentioned, it's a bit of a double joke, as kintama is a slang term in Japanese for testicle that basically means gold ball. Denji polishing a single ball is also referencing to him selling off one of his testicles already. As well, Aki rolling a jackpot with this could be in reference to the nut-kicking contest between him and Denji, where the winner gets the samurai sword's family jewels. Then the Power jackpot scene could be in reference to Power winning the original popularity poll back in 2020, though the design of the logo is directly taken from the movie Thor: Love and Thunder. though in the background of Power's jackpot screen, we can see Makima walking Denji like a literal dog, a clear metaphor to their relationship as Denji is often referred to as a dog, and he has the heart of a devil who looks like a dog in him. And then this scene is transitioned by the snake devil biting down on it. And hey, he finally looks like a snake now! We also get to see Akane and Samurai Sword again, this transition telling us that their target is specifically Denji as well, as Snake doesn't bite down until Denji himself is alone on screen. And in the next cut, we see who they are working for, with the dangling 50 caliber bandoliers of the Gun Devil, though it's likely that the scene we see here is actually moments before it appears for the first time, judging by the snow-covered mountains instead of the empty waters. And then we have a scene where Makima teaches Denji the importance of affection and asks him to kill the Gun Devil before we transition into him laying into her lap, while she slowly pets his head, which at first glance is a soft and loving scene, with plants beginning to bloom around Denji as if it was in a dream. Yet, on second glance, you notice that the plants that are blooming are Venus flytraps, a carnivorous plant that lures in insects with sweet aromas before trapping and eating them. Denji has become a fly in Makima's trap, which is reinforced by the next scene of Denji trying to actually reach out to her, and resting on his hand is that of an insect, and the Makima that he sees is just an illusion. As he wakes, now another bug sits atop his head, reinforcing that bug metaphor. Makima then reaches down to feed him something, a trend that is actually very common throughout this OP. Before this soft moment is violently interrupted by a chainsaw blade ejecting from Denji's forehead, as Makima makes a frame with her fingers, the background of her showing poisonous butterflies as well as what I believe to be intestines projected over her, with the next scene of Denji fully transformed to the Chainsaw Man, the form which Makima perceives him as, and hence why she is making a frame motion with her hands. This same motion also allows Makima to make double finger guns as well, which she uses to shape Denji later in the series. We then return to see what Makima is feeding Denji, and it is a snail that has been infected with a parasite that controls the mind of the snail and tries to get it eaten. This is a double reference to Makima's character of controlling Denji, but also in her wanting to be eaten by the Chainsaw Man himself. She, in a way, is the food she's feeding Denji, and this could also be why one of the images that flashed before this was that of intestines, when she is laying out the frames of her perfect view. This connection is then directly reinforced by cutting between Makima's eyes and the snail's eyes, as the parasite infects the snail's eyes specifically, and then finally, it ends with a blood splatter mirroring the action of taking a picture, which is likely also in reference to Makima killing Power, which ends up turning Denji into her tool Foley and reawakening the Chainsaw Devil within him. Then we have a bit of a traditional action scene, where Denji, Power, and Aki, who is now equipped with an angel sword, since the tip is a regular katana tip so it's not the Cursed Devil sword, to fight what looks like a donut devil? Though this might actually be in reference to the Osaka Expo mascot Muka Muka? Like the Yu-Gi-Oh card? You better watch out, Denji, I got 5 cards in hand, you don't stand a chance. Though the devil grabs Denji and sends him flying, crashing into the ground and buildings, and these are all clearly different moments, and likely are references to future fights in the series, like the Gun Fiend fight and the Bat Devil fight. We then transition into a scene of Denji bursting out of the Eternity Devil, or the Zombie Devil's mouth, crawling back into the fight, and the scene is most likely in reference to Eva, when Unit 1 breaks out of that sort of weird shadow angel. Though Denji being thrown around but getting back up symbolically tells us that no matter what, he will get back up and keep on fighting as long as he has a goal. Denji then sees a golden ball, likely some art display, and flashes back to when Aki rolled that strike earlier in the opening, and Power gets the same idea as him, with this scene being in reference to when Denji and Power were going to kill Kishibe with their genius power brains. We even see Power wearing the same glasses. Power then hits the ball and sends it flying with Denji on top of it, giving him an upward advantage in the fight as he comes crashing down and transitions into him cooking. Them knocking the ball loose is also a reference to a scene from the movie Fight Club. Now, Denji cooking here is a bit of an interesting scene. He is confusedly holding an egg after cracking it on the side of a bowl. He might actually be making a cake since he's never made one before, but this is likely in reference to how Denji used to be so broke and starving that he never had a chance to even cook with an egg before. Though this is a scene of his happy, calm life that he has now, which is then transitioned to the door in his mind, one that represents his past and should never be open, as when it does, this calm life will be destroyed. Fitting that it transitions into an explosion, with Power doing a Goodbye Eri reference, while Aki watches the destruction and takes that time to smoke. This reinforces what Denji will lose if he does open that door. From here we have Denji, Power, and Fujimoto playing in front of a nice scenic backdrop, showing how simple and unsoured their views of the world are, with Aki balanced on a snow pile as his view of the world has become more cynical and focused on devil hunting, as you can see a lot of references to devil hunting around him. He's also standing on a snow pile and has snow on him as a reference to both his family's death and likely his own snowball fight to come. But it is also clear that Aki's view is as much of a backdrop as the one for Power and Denji, where Makima, who is perched on a stack of books, can fully see over the wall into what the real world looks like. Though, it should be noted that Denji and Power don't seem all that interested, while Aki and Makima are obsessed with what they're looking at. This could also be in reference to how Makima is fully aware of the truth of the Gun Devil's existence, where Aki, Power, and Denji are unaware. We are then treated to him and Fujimoto cuddling once again, which reinforces that Denji was the one person to give Fujimoto what he wanted in life. And then we get the Future Devil getting funky, which of course is in reference to how he dances with excitement. I've always pictured him as moving more like an Aqua Teen Hunger Force character than this sort of jazzy movement, but I'll take it. And following him is also a sort of montage of important devils to come, as we see the next one is the Ghost Devil, then Katana Man, who is nearly killed by a swinging blade that I assume is supposed to represent the Cursed Devil, which could reference how he was nearly killed by it, but due to his hybrid nature he survived. But then we see Denji and Power celebrating their victory over the Donut Devil from before, as Aki turns to face the camera and uses the Fox Devil to consume it. The dance they're doing here, some people are saying looks like the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse dance, but I don't really see it personally, but I should mention it anyways. Now, the music for this OP is fantastic, but what else do you expect from Kenshi Yonezu, as he produced a song called Kickback, which, outside of my previously established love for Yonezu, as I've listened to Lemon, Loser, and Madhead Love hundreds of times on their own, they have perfectly captured the sound of Chainsaw Man, starting off a little bit eerie at the beginning, but being able to bring the energy to match the chaotic action of the series, and I'm certainly going to be listening to this on repeat multiple times in the future while working on projects myself. Oh boy, was this OP just the perfect storm. One of the most enjoyable and densely packed things that I have seen in a while. Though, I have to admit, I did have some help with this one. I want to thank Kumi on Twitter, as they were able to find all the movie references that I couldn't find, and they also shared them all on their Twitter. He's an extremely helpful guy on any matter when it comes to Fujimoto and his works, and his Twitter is a wealth of knowledge and information regarding the subject. If you haven't, you should check him out. His @ is the one that you see appearing on screen right now. Thank you again, Kumi. You're the best. With that all said and done, this was a fun project to work on. I assume that the OP might change in certain places in the future. I'm really hoping that they insert Reze in there somewhere. But, of course, if I missed anything, or you have an interpretation of events, please feel free to leave a comment in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed this video and want to see more videos like in the future, I have a Patreon at patreon.com/MediNotTheBadGuy. Every little bit helps keep this channel flowing as smoothly as it does. And if you want to capture the Chainsaw Man, well, I hear that if you buy a copy of Shimoneta, A Boring World with a Concentrated Dirty Jokes at buyshimoneta.com, well, you'll be able to get the Chainsaw Man one way or another.